Husband accused me of cheating after his coworker's wife was unfaithful, so he demanded DNA tests for both our kids even though I was 7 months pregnant, but when the results proved him wrong he still refused to believe it. I, 32F, have been with my husband Floyd, 35M, for almost 15 years now. We got married 9 years ago. I met him when I was 17 through my older cousin who worked at the same restaurant as him. Floyd was 20 at the time and we became friends first. It took us about a year before we started dating officially. We have a daughter who just turned 3 last month. I'm also 7 months pregnant with our second baby. We found out it's going to be a boy this time. My daughter already talks about her baby brother even though she doesn't fully understand what that means yet. Floyd has always been the type of person who gets very involved in other people's problems. He can't just listen to someone's troubles and move on. He takes it all in and carries it with him. When his mom was sick 2 years ago he barely slept for weeks even though she lived 3 states away and there wasn't much he could do from here. When our neighbor's teenage son got into trouble at school Floyd spent hours talking to the kid and trying to help him figure things out. I never saw this as a bad thing. It just seemed like he cared a lot about people. About 2 months ago something happened at Floyd's work. His coworker Dave found out his wife had been cheating on him for over a year. But it got worse than that. Dave and his wife have 3 kids together. The youngest is 5 and the oldest is 11. Dave decided to get DNA tests done for all 3 of them because he didn't know what to believe anymore. The results came back and none of the kids were his. Not a single one. Dave was completely broken by this. He had raised these kids. He coached the oldest one's soccer team. He helped the middle one learn to ride a bike. He was there when the youngest was sick with pneumonia last winter. And now he found out none of them were actually his biological children. Floyd came home that day and told me what happened. He looked pale. He sat at the kitchen table for a long time without saying much. I made dinner that night and he barely touched it. Over the next week Dave's situation got worse. His wife moved out and took the kids with her. Dave had to find a new place to live because the house was in his wife's name. Floyd offered to let Dave stay in our guest room until he found an apartment. I said yes because Dave had always been nice to me when I met him at company events. He seemed like he was going through the worst time of his life and needed help. Dave moved in 3 weeks ago. At first it seemed fine. He stayed in the guest room most of the time. He was quiet and kept to himself. But then I started noticing changes in Floyd. He became distant. He stopped doing the things he always did. Let me explain what our normal routine used to be. I wake up at 6 every morning with our daughter. I make her breakfast and get her ready for daycare. Around 8 I would bring Floyd his coffee in bed along with some toast or whatever I made that morning. He works from home 3 days a week and goes into the office the other 2 days. When I brought him his coffee he would always kiss me and thank me. Then I would drop our daughter at daycare and head to my job at the dental office where I work as a receptionist. I'd get off work at 4 and pick up our daughter on the way home. We would usually get back to the house around 5. Floyd would have dinner ready or at least started. After we ate I would clean up the kitchen while he gave our daughter her bath and read her stories before bed. She's usually asleep by 8. Then Floyd and I would watch TV together or just talk about our days. On Saturdays we would take our daughter to the park or the zoo or sometimes just walk around the mall. Sundays we would visit my dad or Floyd's parents or have friends over for lunch. But ever since Dave moved in everything changed. When I bring Floyd his coffee in the morning now he just says thanks without looking at me. No kiss. No real conversation. When I get home from work I find Floyd and Dave sitting in the living room watching basketball or football or whatever game is on. Neither of them will really talk to me. I have to make dinner myself now. I have to give my daughter her bath and put her to bed by myself. I'm doing all of it alone while 7 months pregnant. The weekends changed too. Floyd doesn't want to go anywhere with me and our daughter anymore. Last Saturday I asked if we could go to the children's museum like we used to and he said he was tired. He and Dave stayed home and watched sports all day. I took my daughter to the museum by myself. She kept asking where Daddy was. Floyd also started staying up until midnight or later. I'm usually in bed by 10 because I'm exhausted from being pregnant and taking care of everything. I don't know what he and Dave do that late. I can hear them talking in the living room but I can't make out what they're saying. This went on for weeks. I tried talking to Floyd about it but he would just say he was fine and that I was overreacting. I asked him if Dave could find his own place soon and Floyd got annoyed with me. He said Dave was his friend and needed support right now. He said I was being selfish. Then yesterday something happened that made everything worse. I got home from work at the usual time. Dave's car wasn't in the driveway but Floyd's was. I walked into the house and put my daughter down for her afternoon snack. Then I went looking for Floyd because I needed to ask him something about a doctor's appointment I had scheduled for next week. I found him in the small office room we have off the hallway. He was sitting at the desk looking at his computer. I walked up behind him and saw what was on the screen. He was on a website that sells DNA testing kits. He had already added one to his shopping cart. I asked him what he was doing. He turned around and looked at me. His face didn't have any expression on it. Then he said he wanted to make sure our daughter was actually his before he kept taking care of her since he wasn't free childcare. I just stood there. I couldn't think of anything to say. He said it so casually, like he was talking about buying groceries. I finally asked him if he seriously thought I had cheated on him. He didn't answer. He just turned back to the computer. I walked out of the room. I picked up my daughter and took her upstairs to her room. I sat on the floor next to her toy box while she played with her blocks. I stayed there until it was time to make dinner. I made pasta and cut up some vegetables for my daughter. Floyd and Dave ate in the living room. I fed my daughter in the kitchen and then gave her a bath and put her to bed. After she was asleep, I went to our bedroom and shut the door. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Floyd came in around 11 and got into bed without saying anything to me. I didn't sleep that night. This morning, I called in sick to work. My daughter goes to daycare on Wednesdays anyway, so Floyd took her this morning like he sometimes does on his work from home days. After they left, I just sat on the couch. I don't know what to do. If Floyd thinks I cheated on him, then he doesn't trust me anymore. How can a marriage work without trust? I've never even looked at another man since we got together. Floyd is the only person I've ever been with. We started dating when I was 18 and I had never had a boyfriend before him. But now he thinks our daughter isn't his. And probably the baby I'm carrying right now too. He wants to get a DNA test because he thinks I betrayed him. The way he said that thing about not being free childcare keeps playing in my head over and over. I don't know if I can stay in this marriage. Even if he gets the DNA test and it proves our daughter is his, would that fix anything? He still believed I was capable of doing that to him. He still thought I would cheat on him and lie about our children. I don't know how to come back from that. I keep thinking about Dave and his situation. I know it was horrible what happened to him. But Dave's wife actually did cheat on him. Those kids actually weren't his. I didn't do any of that. I've been faithful to Floyd since the day we started dating. But somehow Dave's situation made Floyd suspicious of me. I'm sitting here trying to figure out if I should just tell him to get the DNA test and get it over with. Or if I should pack my things and leave. Or if I should tell him to leave since this is my house anyway. My mom died when I was 12 and she left me this house in her will. My dad helped me take care of it until I was old enough to manage it myself. Floyd moved in here after we got married. His name isn't on any of the paperwork. I don't want my daughter growing up in a house where her parents don't trust each other. And I don't want to bring my son into that environment either. But I also don't know if I'm thinking clearly right now. Maybe I'm just upset because of the pregnancy. Maybe I should calm down and try to talk to Floyd again. But every time I think about what he said, I get a tight feeling in my chest. The way he looked at me. Like I was a stranger. Like he didn't know me at all. We've been together for 15 years. We've been through so much together. My mom's death. His dad's heart attack. Losing our first pregnancy before we had our daughter. All of that, and he still thinks I would do this. I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. I'm 7 months pregnant. I have a 3-year-old daughter. I can't just leave easily even if I wanted to. But I also can't live like this. I can't keep making dinner and taking care of our daughter alone while he sits in the living room with Dave acting like I don't exist. I can't keep being treated like I'm a liar. So I'm asking because I genuinely don't know. Is this marriage over? Should I just accept that and start planning for what comes next? Or is there a way to fix this that I'm not seeing right now? Update 1: I called my dad the day after I made my first post. I couldn't stop crying on the phone. I don't think he understood most of what I was saying, but he said he and my stepmom Linda would come stay with me. They live about 2 hours away, so they got here Friday evening. Linda took over cooking and helping with my daughter while I figured out what to do next. On Friday morning before my dad arrived, I talked to Floyd. I say talked, but really I just told him what was going to happen. Dave needed to be out of the house by Sunday night. I gave him the weekend because I'm not cruel enough to throw someone out with no notice. But Sunday was it. Then I told Floyd he needed to leave too. He started to argue with me, but I cut him off. I told him I'm 7 months pregnant and I have a toddler and all the baby stuff for our son is already here in the house. It makes no sense for me to be the one who leaves. I didn't mention that the house is legally mine. I was trying to stay calm and practical about it. I wasn't sure if Floyd actually heard me or if he would ignore what I said. So I messaged his younger sister Bethany that same afternoon. I explained what was happening. Bethany and I have always gotten along well. She's always been straightforward and doesn't put up with nonsense from anyone, including her own family. Bethany responded within an hour. She said she would make sure Floyd was out by Sunday night. She said some other things too about how Floyd was being an idiot, but I'll skip those parts. About the DNA test. I told Floyd he could get one for our daughter. And he could get one for our son after he's born too. I have nothing to hide. But I'm not going to be the one setting it up or taking our daughter to get it done. If he wants to question whether his own children are his, then he can do all the work for it. The reason I'm so upset about this isn't because I'm afraid of what the test will show. I know our daughter is his. I know our son is his. But Floyd should know that too. The fact that he doesn't believe me means something broke between us that I don't know how to fix. Floyd is the only man I've ever been with. I was 18 when we started dating and I had never dated anyone before him. There hasn't been anyone else since. Not even close. The idea that he thinks I would cheat on him and lie about our children for years makes me feel like he never really knew me at all. My dad said I should consider talking to someone professional about all of this. A counselor or something. But that costs money we don't have right now, and I'm not sure what good it would do anyway. Floyd is the one who needs to talk to someone. He's the one who suddenly decided his friend's situation must mean his own wife is also a cheater. But I can't force him to do anything. The main thing I care about right now is making sure our daughter doesn't suffer from all this. She's only 3, but she notices when her dad isn't around as much. She asked me yesterday where Daddy was and why he didn't come home. I didn't know what to tell her. I just said Daddy was staying at Aunt Bethany's house for a little while. Even if Floyd and I end up divorced, I need him to still be a father to our kids. Our daughter deserves to have her dad in her life. And our son will deserve the same thing when he's born. Whatever problems Floyd and I have with each other can't get in the way of that. Dave left on Sunday morning. He didn't say goodbye to me. He just packed his stuff and left while I was giving my daughter breakfast. I was glad when he was gone. I know his situation was bad, but having him here changed everything in my house and in my marriage. Bethany showed up Sunday afternoon to pick up Floyd. She came inside for a few minutes to say hello to my daughter and to meet my dad and Linda. She didn't say anything about Floyd in front of me, but I saw the way she looked at him. She was clearly not happy with her brother. Floyd packed 2 bags and left with her. After they were gone, the house felt different. Quieter, but also less tense. My daughter seemed more relaxed too. She played with her toys while my dad fixed a loose cabinet in the kitchen and Linda made dinner. It felt almost normal except for the obvious fact that Floyd wasn't there. We got the DNA test done for our daughter last Tuesday. Floyd set it up and took her to get the cheek swab done. I didn't go with them. Bethany went instead because she didn't trust Floyd to actually follow through with it. The results came back Friday. Our daughter is Floyd's biological child. Obviously. I knew this would be the result, but seeing the actual paper made something shift in my chest anyway. This should have been the end of it. Floyd should have seen the results and realized he'd made a huge mistake. He should have apologized and we should have been able to start figuring out how to move forward. But that's not what happened. Instead, Floyd called me Friday night and said he thinks I somehow interfered with the test results. He said I must have found a way to fake them or switch them or something. He wasn't making sense. I wasn't even there when the test was done. Bethany was there the whole time. She confirmed that everything was done properly and that I had nothing to do with any of it. I told Floyd he was being ridiculous and hung up on him. I haven't talked to him since then. I don't know what else there is to say. He got the proof he asked for and he still doesn't believe it. My dad and Linda are still here helping me out. Linda has been amazing with my daughter. She takes her to daycare in the mornings and picks her up in the afternoons so I don't have to do as much. My dad has been fixing things around the house that have needed attention for months. It's nice having them here, but I know they can't stay forever. Bethany came by yesterday to visit my daughter. We have an understanding that we won't talk about Floyd when my daughter is around. She's too young to understand what's happening, but she can pick up on tension. When my daughter is napping or playing in another room, Bethany and I can talk a bit. She told me Floyd is still staying with her, but she's getting frustrated with him. She said he refuses to admit he's wrong about anything. I'm managing day by day right now. I get up in the morning and take care of my daughter and go to work and come home and make dinner and give baths and read stories. Linda helps with a lot of it, which makes things easier. But at night after everyone is asleep, I lie in bed and think about how my marriage fell apart in just a few weeks. I thought Floyd would come to his senses after seeing the DNA results. I thought he would realize he'd been wrong and we could figure out how to fix things. But instead he's doubled down on his suspicions. He's convinced himself that I'm some kind of manipulative liar who can somehow fake DNA tests. I don't even know how that would be possible, but he believes it anyway. The baby is due in about 8 weeks. Floyd hasn't asked about any of my doctor's appointments. He hasn't asked how I'm feeling or if I need anything. He only calls when it has something to do with his conspiracy theories about the DNA test. Bethany apologized to me for her brother's behavior. She said she didn't raise him to act like this. I told her it wasn't her fault. I don't know what's going to happen when our son is born. Will Floyd show up at the hospital? Will he demand another DNA test immediately? Will he look at his own son and think that baby isn't his either? I'm trying not to think too far ahead. Right now I just need to get through each day. Take care of my daughter. Get ready for the baby. Keep working so I can pay the bills. Everything else can wait. Update 2: my son was born 8 days ago. He weighed 8 pounds and 11 ounces. He has dark hair like me and Floyd. My daughter is very interested in him but also confused about why he cries so much. My dad and Linda are still staying with me to help out. I don't know what I would have done without them these past few weeks. Floyd came to the hospital the day after I gave birth. Bethany must have told him because I didn't call him. He walked into my room and looked at the baby for a long time without saying anything. Then he said he wanted another DNA test for our daughter before he would accept that either child was his. He said he didn't trust the first test results. I was too exhausted to argue with him. I just told him to do whatever he wanted. He left after about 10 minutes. He didn't ask how I was doing or if I needed anything. He just looked at the baby and made his accusations and left. Bethany visited me every day I was in the hospital. She brought my daughter to see me and the baby. She apologized again for Floyd, but I told her to stop apologizing for him. None of this is her fault. She's been nothing but supportive while her brother has lost his mind. I've been home for a week now. Taking care of a newborn and a 3-year-old is exhausting, but my dad and Linda have been helping a lot. My daughter goes to daycare during the day, which gives me time to focus on the baby and get some rest when he's sleeping. Floyd texted me 3 days ago. He said he wanted to come see the baby again, but I told him no. I said if he wanted to see his son, he needed to accept that both children are his. I haven't heard back from him since then. But something else happened 2 days ago that explained everything. A woman showed up at my door in the afternoon. She was pregnant. Pretty far along from the looks of it. She asked me when I was planning to move out of Floyd's house. I had no idea what she was talking about. I told her this was my house and asked who she was. She looked confused. She said she was Floyd's fiancée and that he told her I was his ex-wife who he was letting stay here temporarily until I found my own place. She said Floyd had proposed to her about 6 weeks ago. I told her to come inside and sit down. We needed to talk. Her name is Jennifer and she's 29. She said she's been seeing Floyd for about 5 months. She met him at a coffee shop near his office. They started talking and then started dating. She's pregnant with his baby. She's due in about 2 months. Floyd told Jennifer that he and I got divorced 2 years ago. He told her that our daughter and our son aren't his biological children. He said I had cheated on him and gotten pregnant by someone else both times, but he was letting me stay in his house anyway because he's a good person. Jennifer said Floyd works from her apartment on the days he's supposed to be working from home. That's where he's been going in the mornings after I leave for work. She showed me pictures of them together on her phone. There were dozens of them. Photos of them at restaurants and parks and in her apartment. Photos from the past 5 months. She also told me something else. She said Floyd convinced her to start an account on one of those adult content websites where people post explicit photos and videos. She said they make content together and split the money. She showed me the account. I'm not going to describe what I saw, but it was definitely Floyd in those videos. I explained everything to Jennifer. I told her Floyd and I are still legally married. I told her I've never cheated on him and both of our children are his. I told her about Dave and how everything changed after Dave moved in. I told her about the DNA test that proved our daughter is Floyd's and how he refused to believe the results. Jennifer sat on my couch crying. She kept saying she had no idea he was married. She thought everything he told her was true. I told her I believed her. I don't think she knew she was sleeping with a married man. Floyd lied to both of us. After Jennifer left, I called Bethany and told her everything. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said she was going to Floyd's work to confront him. I told her not to do anything that would get her in trouble, but she had already hung up. I haven't heard from Floyd since then. Bethany called me yesterday and said she kicked him out of her house. She said their parents found out what he did and they're furious with him. She said Floyd has nowhere to go now and it's his own fault. The whole time Floyd was accusing me of cheating, he was actually the one having an affair. The whole time he was demanding DNA tests for our children, he was lying to another woman about those same children. He got his mistress pregnant while I was pregnant with our second child. He proposed to her in my kitchen while I was at work. Everything makes sense now. His distant behavior started around the time he must have met Jennifer. Dave moving in just gave him an excuse to pull away from me even more. The DNA test thing was him projecting his own guilt onto me. He was cheating, so he convinced himself I must be cheating too. My dad wants me to talk to a lawyer about divorce. He's probably right. I can't stay married to someone who did all of this. But right now I'm just trying to get through each day with a newborn and a toddler. I'll deal with the legal stuff soon, but not today. Floyd's whole family has cut him off. His parents won't talk to him. Bethany won't let him near her. Even his cousins have started blocking him on social media. They all know what he did and they're on my side. The house is in my name only. It was my mom's house and she left it to me when she died. Floyd has no legal claim to it. So at least I don't have to worry about him trying to take it from me in a divorce. I got a message from Jennifer yesterday. She said she broke up with Floyd and blocked his number. She said she's sorry for being part of this even though she didn't know the truth. I told her she doesn't need to apologize. We're both victims of Floyd's lies. I don't know where Floyd is staying now. I don't really care. He created this mess and now he has to deal with the consequences. I have 2 children to take care of and I can't waste energy worrying about what happens to him. Update 3: the divorce is done. It took 6 weeks to finalize, but it's over now. The court ordered DNA tests for both children as part of the divorce proceedings. Both tests confirmed what I already knew. My daughter and my son are both Floyd's biological children. Floyd still says he doesn't believe it, but the court doesn't care what he believes. Floyd has to pay child support for both kids. The judge set the amount based on his income. He's also supposed to have supervised visitation rights, but he hasn't tried to arrange any visits yet. Bethany said he's living with a friend from work now. Not Jennifer. She wanted nothing to do with him after finding out the truth. Something else happened that I only found out about last week. Floyd is in jail. It has nothing to do with me or our divorce. Jennifer called the police on him about a month ago. She said he showed up at her apartment drunk and angry. He forced his way inside when she tried to close the door on him. He grabbed her and shook her and pushed her into a wall. Her neighbor heard her screaming and called the police. Floyd was arrested that night. Jennifer pressed charges. Floyd was convicted of assault last week and sentenced to 8 months in jail. Bethany told me this because she thought I should know. She said their parents are completely done with Floyd now. They're still involved in my children's lives, but they want nothing to do with their son. I went back to work 4 weeks ago after my maternity leave ended. My boss gave me a raise and a new title. I'm now the office manager instead of just a receptionist. The extra money helps a lot with 2 kids. My dad and Linda went back home last month, but they visit every weekend. Linda has become like a grandmother to my kids. My daughter runs to the door when she hears their car pull up. I put my son in daycare 2 weeks ago at the same place my daughter goes. It's expensive having both kids in daycare, but I need to work and I don't have anyone else to watch them during the day. The daycare workers are good with both of them, so that makes it easier. My daughter asked about Floyd a few times in the first month after he left, but she doesn't ask anymore. She's too young to understand divorce or why her father isn't around. I'll explain it to her when she's older. For now I just tell her daddy is away and leave it at that. Some days I still think about how fast everything fell apart. 2 months ago I thought I had a stable marriage. I thought Floyd and I would raise our kids together and grow old together. Then Dave moved in and Floyd changed completely. Or maybe Floyd was always capable of this and I just never saw it. I don't cry about it anymore. I don't have time to sit around being upset. I wake up at 6 with the baby. I get my daughter ready and make breakfast. I drop both kids at daycare and go to work. I pick them up at 5 and make dinner and give baths and read stories. My son wakes up twice a night to eat. By the time I get back in bed after feeding him, it's almost time to wake up again. Bethany still visits regularly. She brings groceries sometimes or just comes to play with the kids so I can take a shower or do laundry. Floyd's parents send money every month to help with expenses for the kids. They feel guilty about what their son did even though I've told them it's not their fault. I don't know if Jennifer had her baby yet. I haven't heard from her since she called to tell me about Floyd being arrested. I hope she's okay and I hope her baby is healthy. She didn't deserve what Floyd did to her any more than I did. Floyd will be in jail for at least 6 more months. After that I don't know what will happen. Will he try to see the kids? Will he pay his child support? Will he disappear completely? I can't predict what he'll do because I clearly never knew him as well as I thought I did. Right now my life is my kids and my job. My daughter starts preschool next fall. My son is starting to smile and grab at things. These are the things I focus on. Not Floyd or the divorce or everything that went wrong. Just getting through each day and taking care of my children. The house feels different now. It's quieter without Floyd here. But it also feels more stable in a way. There's no tension. No wondering what mood someone will be in or if they'll actually help with the kids. It's just me and my children and the routine we've built together. That's enough for now. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2. My evil sister was the perfect daughter while I was constantly told to be more like her. When I discovered she was dating 2 men behind everyone's backs, I planned the ultimate public exposure at our parents' 25th anniversary party. I, 21F, never thought I would post about my life online for thousands of strangers to read, but recent events have pushed me to a breaking point. Growing up with my sister Pamela, 23F, has been a nightmare that nobody around me ever seemed to notice or understand. For as long as I can remember, Pamela has been the golden child in our family. She was the one with perfect grades, perfect looks, and a seemingly perfect personality that charmed everyone around her. My parents constantly held her up as the standard I should aspire to. Every conversation at family gatherings inevitably turned to Pamela's latest achievements while I stood in the corner, invisible. Last weekend was my childhood friend Melissa's homecoming party. I tried every excuse not to go because I knew Pamela would be there with her boyfriend George, 24M. My parents insisted I attend, claiming it would be good for my social development, their code for fixing whatever they think is wrong with me. To understand why this party became the catalyst for everything that followed, I need to explain the reality of living with Pamela. In public, Pamela is an angel. She volunteers at animal shelters, helps elderly neighbors with groceries, and always has the perfect advice for everyone's problems. My parents beam with pride whenever someone compliments her. Teachers used to ask why I couldn't be more like my sister. Relatives would pinch my cheeks at family gatherings and tell me to take notes from Pamela. I became known as Pamela's sister rather than Veronica. But behind closed doors, Pamela is different. She has mastered the art of saying cruel things disguised as helpful advice. When I wore a new dress for a school dance, she told me the color washed me out and made me look sickly, but she was just trying to help. When I got an A on a test I studied weeks for, she said it was impressive considering my learning challenges. I have no diagnosed learning disabilities. These constant jabs eroded my self-confidence over the years. My parents never noticed because Pamela was careful to maintain her helpful facade. If I ever complained, my parents said I was being too sensitive and that Pamela was just trying to help me improve. They believed her perfection could somehow rub off on me if I spent enough time with her. This dynamic affected every aspect of my life. I struggled to make friends because I constantly feared rejection. Every time someone wanted to hang out, a voice in my head questioned their motives. Were they just being nice? Did they actually want to be friends with Pamela and were using me to get closer to her? These thoughts paralyzed me socially, and I retreated further into isolation. I developed a preference for being alone. My room became my sanctuary, the one place where I didn't have to measure up to impossible standards or endure veiled insults. My parents saw this as another problem to fix rather than a coping mechanism. So when they insisted I attend Melissa's homecoming party, I knew it would be another exercise in humiliation. The party was exactly what I expected, a scene out of a teen movie where everyone seemed to know their place except me. Pamela arrived with George, her boyfriend of 2 years. They were the perfect couple that everyone envied. George was the star quarterback in high school who went on to attend a prestigious university on a full scholarship. Pamela made sure everyone knew how perfect their relationship was, frequently posting pictures of their elaborate dates and expensive gifts. I found a quiet corner and tried to become invisible. But Pamela's friend Taylor spotted me and approached with that fake sympathetic look I knew too well. Taylor asked if I was seeing anyone. Before I could answer, Pamela overheard and laughed loudly, drawing everyone's attention. She gestured at me like I was some failed science experiment and planted a theatrical kiss on George's cheek. She then informed everyone within earshot that not everyone is cut out for relationships, looking directly at me. The room erupted in laughter. In that moment, I believed her. 21 years of being told I was the inferior version of my sister crystallized into absolute certainty. I felt like I was suffocating. I slipped out of the party and walked home in the dark, tears streaming down my face. When I got home, I tried to talk to my parents about what happened. They barely looked up from their phones. My mother said Pamela was probably just trying to help me not feel bad about being single. My father suggested I might have misinterpreted things. That night, I spent hours watching makeup tutorials and online shopping for clothes I couldn't afford. I thought if I could just look more like Pamela, maybe people would see me too. I could feel Pamela watching me with amusement when she returned from the party. She knew exactly what she had done. For the next week, I withdrew even further. I skipped classes and barely left my room. My parents noticed but attributed it to my antisocial tendencies rather than anything Pamela had done. Then something strange happened. Pamela started receiving expensive gifts, designer handbags, jewelry, flowers. She told our parents they were from George, who was apologizing for a fight they'd had. My parents accepted this explanation immediately because they adored George and his family's social standing. But I knew something wasn't right. George hadn't been to our house in weeks. Normally after a fight with George, Pamela would spend days complaining about him and listing his flaws in excruciating detail. This time, she said nothing negative about him. One afternoon, I came home early from campus and saw Pamela in the coffee shop across from our house. She was with a guy who definitely wasn't George. They were holding hands across the table, and Pamela had that fake little laugh she uses when flirting. When she spotted me through the window, her face filled with terror. That night, she sent me a text reminding me about the time she caught me taking a $20 bill from our mother's purse when I was 14. It was clearly a threat to keep quiet about what I'd seen. Over the next few days, I received more reminder texts about embarrassing or private moments from my past. Meanwhile, the gifts continued to arrive, and Pamela paraded them around the house. Pamela had broken up with boyfriends before. Each time followed the same pattern. She would become inconsolable, our mother would take days off work to comfort her, and the ex-boyfriend would be vilified in our household. Her silence about George was completely out of character, which made me suspicious. I felt like I was sitting on a ticking time bomb. I knew Pamela's patterns, and I knew this situation would eventually explode. The breaking point came 3 weeks after the party. I was at the farmer's market downtown when I spotted Pamela and George at a cafe. They were clearly still together, acting like a couple. My suspicions were confirmed. Pamela was living a double life. I started keeping tabs on Pamela's movements. I noticed she used location sharing apps to coordinate her schedule. One night, I saw a guy, who I later learned was named Sebastian, 25M, sneaking into her bedroom window when she had told our parents she was studying late at the library. As I gathered more evidence of Pamela's deception, I also noticed that her best friend Maria had suddenly disappeared from her life. They had unfollowed each other on social media, which was unusual considering they had been inseparable since high school. I reached out to Maria and learned that Pamela had confessed to dating both George and Sebastian simultaneously. Maria had confronted Pamela about the dishonesty, and Pamela had ended their friendship rather than change her behavior. My parents' 25th anniversary was approaching, and they were planning a large party. I saw my opportunity. With Maria's help, I ensured that both George and Sebastian would attend, each thinking they were Pamela's only boyfriend. The night of the anniversary party, both men arrived. George brought an expensive anniversary gift for my parents. Sebastian arrived slightly later, confused about why Pamela hadn't met him outside as planned. When they both approached Pamela simultaneously, the truth unraveled quickly. They compared notes and realized they had been dating the same woman for months. Pamela tried to lie her way out of the situation, but the evidence was overwhelming. The perfect image she had cultivated for years shattered in front of everyone. My parents were forced to see Pamela for who she really was. The golden child's pedestal crumbled. Pamela left town the next day without telling anyone where she was going. My parents were upset, but for the first time, they weren't blaming me for the family discord. In the aftermath, I formed an unexpected friendship with Maria, who understood what it was like to be manipulated by Pamela. I also started dating someone who values me for who I am, not as a comparison to someone else. Years of living in Pamela's shadow taught me that appearances can be deceiving. Sometimes the people who seem the most perfect are hiding the biggest flaws. Update 1: The fallout from exposing Pamela's double life has been far greater than I anticipated. For 2 weeks, I've been processing everything that happened and dealing with the aftermath within my family and our social circle. After Pamela disappeared following the anniversary party, my parents went through stages of denial, anger, and grief. They tried calling her repeatedly, but she only responded with brief texts saying she needed space. Eventually, they learned she had moved in with a cousin in a neighboring state. My relationship with my parents has shifted dramatically. For the first time, they're seeing me, really seeing me. My mother found me in my room the day after Pamela left and just sat on my bed in silence for a while. She eventually asked me how long Pamela had been treating me poorly. When I told her it had been happening for as long as I could remember, she broke down crying. My father has been quieter about the whole situation, but I noticed he started asking about my classes and interests, topics he had never shown interest in before. These small changes feel monumental after years of being overlooked. What I didn't expect was the division among our extended family and friends. Some people believe I deliberately set Pamela up to humiliate her. My aunt called and berated me for destroying my sister's reputation out of jealousy. Several of Pamela's friends have sent me hateful messages, calling me an attention seeker who couldn't stand not being in the spotlight. Others have reached out with stories about Pamela that echo my experiences. A cousin told me Pamela had spread rumors about her weight gain after pregnancy. A former classmate messaged me to share how Pamela had befriended her, learned about her insecurities, then used that information to exclude her from social events. The most surprising development came from George and Sebastian. Instead of blaming each other, they formed an unlikely alliance. They compared timeline notes and discovered Pamela had been playing them against each other, often using one's shortcomings to manipulate the other into buying her gifts or giving her attention. George stopped by our house to collect some things he had left here over the years. We ended up talking for hours. He revealed that Pamela had told him I was unstable and jealous of their relationship, which was why she had to exclude me from their activities. All those times I thought they were deliberately leaving me out, George believed he was respecting my wishes to keep distance. Sebastian reached out via social media. He had only known Pamela for about 6 months but had already spent thousands of dollars on her. She had told him she came from a broken home with neglectful parents, and the gifts were his way of trying to bring her happiness. The web of lies she constructed was elaborate and calculated. Maria has been my rock through all of this. Having someone who understands Pamela's manipulation tactics has validated my experiences in ways I never expected. We've spent several evenings together, piecing together the real timeline of events and uncovering more instances of Pamela's deception. Yesterday, my mother found Pamela's journal hidden in her room. Reading it was like discovering a stranger had been living in our house. Pamela meticulously documented her deceptions, not out of guilt, but as a way to keep her story straight. She had notes about what lies she told to whom, reminders about key dates to maintain her cover stories, and even calculations of how much money she could extract from George and Sebastian before they might become suspicious. The journal also contained entries about me that made my stomach turn. She referred to me as her social experiment and detailed ways she had deliberately undermined my confidence over the years. She wrote about sabotaging potential friendships by telling people I had said negative things about them. There was even a list titled Veronica's Weaknesses that she used to know exactly where to strike when she wanted to hurt me. My parents read these entries with horror. My father, who rarely shows emotion, had to leave the room. My mother kept saying she didn't understand how she could have missed the signs for so long. I'm still processing all of this information. Part of me feels vindicated that everyone finally sees what I've known for years. Another part feels hollowed out, knowing that my sister's cruelty was even more deliberate than I had realized. Maria suggested I start seeing a counselor at the university to help process everything. Initially, I resisted the idea. Therapy feels like admitting there's something wrong with me rather than with the situation. But after finding Pamela's journal, I made an appointment. I realize now that living under that kind of calculated manipulation for years leaves marks that don't disappear just because the truth comes out. Pamela texted me directly for the first time yesterday. Instead of an apology, she accused me of planning her downfall for years out of jealousy. She claimed I had always wanted to turn our parents against her. The message was so disconnected from reality that I showed it to my parents without responding to her. They were shocked by her inability to take responsibility for her actions. For now, I'm taking things day by day. My world has been turned upside down, but for the first time in my life, I'm not living in Pamela's shadow. The light can be blinding after spending so long in darkness, but I'm slowly adjusting to being seen. Update 2: It's been a month since my last update, and the situation with Pamela has taken several unexpected turns. Just when I thought the dust was settling, new information came to light that changed everything again. About 2 weeks ago, Pamela returned home unannounced. She showed up at our front door with puffy eyes and a story about how sorry she was for everything. My parents, despite their recent disillusionment, welcomed her back with cautious open arms. I kept my distance, watching her performance from the sidelines. Pamela claimed she had gone through a spiritual awakening during her time away. She talked about realizing the error of her ways and wanting to make amends with everyone she had hurt. My father seemed willing to believe her, eager to restore family harmony. My mother was more hesitant but wanted to give her a chance. I remained skeptical. The timing of her return coincided suspiciously with the end of the month, when her rent would have been due at whatever place she was staying. I also noticed she brought back very few possessions, which made me wonder if she had been kicked out rather than choosing to return home. My suspicions were confirmed when Maria received a call from the cousin Pamela had been staying with. The cousin told Maria that Pamela had attempted to seduce her husband, and when confronted, Pamela had claimed it was the husband who pursued her. The cousin had found text messages proving otherwise and had told Pamela to leave. While my parents were still processing this new information, another bombshell dropped. A woman named Rebecca contacted me through social media. She introduced herself as Sebastian's sister and asked to meet. Curious about what she might know, I agreed to coffee at a public place. Rebecca showed me evidence that Pamela had been running this two-boyfriend scheme longer than anyone realized. Before George, there had been another long-term boyfriend named Alex who overlapped with George for several months. Rebecca had pictures, text messages, and even receipts for gifts that Pamela had manipulated these men into buying. Most disturbing was Rebecca's revelation that Pamela had accessed Sebastian's bank accounts. Sebastian had trusted Pamela with his banking password to pay a bill while he was on a business trip. After the anniversary party revelation, Sebastian discovered several unexplained transfers. It wasn't a huge amount, just under $1,000, but it was clearly theft. I brought this information to my parents. My mother immediately confronted Pamela, who denied everything at first. When presented with the evidence, she broke down in tears, claiming she had a shopping addiction and needed help, not judgment. She begged for another chance and promised to pay back every cent. My father, always quick to find excuses for Pamela's behavior, suggested we help her find therapy for her addiction. My mother, to her credit, was firmer this time. She told Pamela that she needed to take responsibility for her actions and face consequences. The next day, Sebastian's family filed a police report about the stolen money. The amounts were small enough that Pamela likely won't face serious charges if she pays it back, but the possibility of a criminal record shook her carefully constructed world. In a panic, Pamela tried to turn the narrative again. She told our extended family that I had planted evidence on her computer and framed her out of jealousy. Fortunately, the preponderance of evidence against her meant few people believed these accusations. Throughout all this, I've maintained my unexpected friendship with Maria. We've talked extensively about the red flags we both ignored in Pamela's behavior over the years. Maria admitted she had seen how Pamela treated me but had convinced herself it was normal sibling rivalry. She apologized for not speaking up sooner. The most significant development in my personal life has been my relationship with Henry, 22M, who I mentioned briefly in my last update. We met in my economics class last semester and started dating shortly after the anniversary party incident. Unlike previous relationships where I constantly worried about measuring up to Pamela, with Henry, I feel valued for who I am. Henry never knew Pamela during her golden child phase, he's only seen the aftermath of her deception. His outside perspective has been invaluable. He pointed out patterns of manipulation that I had normalized after years of exposure. Yesterday, Pamela approached me when we were alone in the house. Instead of more accusations or fake apologies, she made me an offer. If I helped convince our parents and Sebastian's family to drop the issue of the stolen money, she would move out permanently and leave me alone. She said she had an opportunity to move across the country for a job, but the potential theft charges were holding her back. I didn't give her an answer immediately. Part of me wants her gone from my life completely, but another part questions whether helping her escape consequences is the right thing to do. I'm meeting with Maria tomorrow to discuss it. For now, our home remains tense. My parents are walking on eggshells around both of us for different reasons. My mother has been making efforts to rebuild our relationship, asking about my day and taking an interest in my activities. My father still struggles with the cognitive dissonance of seeing his golden child's true colors. As for me, I'm focusing on strengthening the new relationships in my life while working through the damage of the old ones. Each day brings new challenges, but also new clarity. The truth has been painful for everyone involved, but living in it feels infinitely better than living in Pamela's carefully constructed lies. Update 3. It's been 3 months since my last update, and my life has changed in ways I never could have predicted. The situation with Pamela reached its resolution, though not in the way anyone expected. After careful consideration, I declined Pamela's offer to help her escape the consequences of her actions. I told her that taking responsibility was the only path forward if she genuinely wanted to change. She didn't take my response well and accused me of wanting to see her suffer. The theft charges against Pamela proceeded, but with an unexpected turn of events. During the investigation, authorities discovered that Pamela had taken money from more people than just Sebastian. There was a pattern of small withdrawals from multiple individuals, friends, ex-boyfriends, even our parents. She had apparently been supplementing her lifestyle this way for years, careful to take amounts small enough that people might attribute to misremembering their balance or an automated payment they'd forgotten about. Faced with mounting evidence, Pamela accepted a plea deal that required her to pay restitution, perform community service, and attend financial counseling. The judge was lenient given the relatively small amounts involved and Pamela's lack of prior criminal record. My parents struggled with this new reality. My father initially wanted to pay Pamela's restitution for her, still trying to shield her from consequences. My mother, who had been doing her own soul-searching, put her foot down. She told him that continuing to rescue Pamela would only enable more of the same behavior. Their disagreement over how to handle Pamela led to serious tensions in their marriage. They started attending counseling together to work through their different parenting approaches and the guilt they both felt about missing the signs of Pamela's behavior for so long. In a surprising development, George reached out to me about a month ago. He had been doing his own investigation and discovered that Pamela had stolen his grandmother's heirloom bracelet, a piece of jewelry he had reported missing over a year ago. He found evidence that Pamela had pawned it and used the money for a weekend trip she claimed was for a girl's getaway but had actually been with Sebastian. George decided not to press charges after learning about Pamela's existing legal troubles. Instead, he asked for my parents' contact information. He met with them to discuss what happened and provided closure for everyone involved. George's maturity throughout this situation has been remarkable, and I gained respect for how he's handled everything. Sebastian has moved on with his life and hasn't had contact with our family since the restitution was arranged. Maria told me he started dating someone new and seems to be doing well. As for Maria and me, our friendship has continued to grow. We've helped each other recognize and work through the manipulation tactics Pamela used on both of us. Maria introduced me to her wider friend group, and for the first time in my life, I have genuine social connections that aren't overshadowed by comparison to my sister. My relationship with Henry has also deepened. He's been steadfast through all the family drama, offering support without trying to fix everything. Last month, he invited me to meet his family during a weekend trip to his hometown. The contrast between how his family interacts and what I grew up with was eye-opening. They teased each other good-naturedly but without the undercurrent of cruelty I was accustomed to. His parents showed interest in my studies and hobbies without comparing me to anyone else. The most significant change has been in my relationship with my mother. She's made consistent efforts to understand me as an individual. We've had several long conversations about my childhood experiences. She apologized for the ways she unintentionally contributed to the dynamic between Pamela and me. While these conversations have been difficult, they've also been healing. My father has had a harder time adjusting. He still occasionally makes comments that reveal he's hoping things will go back to normal, the normal where Pamela was perfect and the family revolved around her. But he's trying, in his way, to build a relationship with me that isn't defined by his expectations of who I should be. Pamela completed her community service last week. She's been living in a small apartment across town and working at an office supply store, a far cry from the glamorous life she had envisioned for herself. We haven't spoken directly in over 2 months. My parents maintain limited contact with her, checking in occasionally but maintaining the boundaries they established after learning the full extent of her deception. Last weekend, I ran into Pamela unexpectedly at a grocery store. Instead of the confident, manipulative person I grew up with, she seemed subdued. She asked how our parents were doing, and we exchanged brief, civil words before going our separate ways. There was no dramatic confrontation or tearful reconciliation, just two people who share blood but have chosen different paths. As for me, I'm focusing on finishing my degree and building the life I want. I registered for a study abroad program next semester, something I never would have had the confidence to do before. Henry is supportive, and we're discussing ways to maintain our relationship during my time away. The shadow Pamela cast over my life for so many years has finally lifted. I no longer measure my worth against her or anyone else. The journey to this point has been painful and messy, but I wouldn't trade the clarity and self-knowledge I've gained. Sometimes family is who you're born to, and sometimes it's who you choose. I'm grateful for the chosen family I've built with Henry, Maria, and new friends who see me for who I am. The road ahead isn't perfectly clear, but for the first time, I'm walking it on my own terms.
That I'd had some lower back challenges during that time, but you just kind of ignore it and you just keep going because, we're determined, right? And so once my son was born and I wanted to get back into my running routine, I could get up to about 2 miles and then I'd have excruciating lower back pain. It was unavoidable. I could not ignore it. And I'd been running for years. And so I went to the doctor and he said, Renee, you've got some serious back. You need to stop running. Well, of course, it's like that is just like heart wrenching and nobody wants to stop their fitness routine. But I had to do it. So I had to come up with some other ways to still keep fit and sort of do a workaround. So I did what I could. I walked. Okay, and walking is great. Mm-hmm. I did a little bit of weight training. I did some Pilates. You just kind of explore all your